what we know to be true is that we are spiritual beings and we live in a truth that is greater than our circumstances, that is greater than our situations, that is greater than anything outside of us. We know that there is only one presence and one power. We call that God, and God is, just as your statement just says, love and abundance and connection and compassion and community, all of those things. When we know it in the depths of our being, no matter what's going on in the world, we find a strength. We're raised up in the core of our being. And when we access that place and then we live in that place, that is what I'm calling new humanity now. That's what I'm calling the quantum leap from where we are to where we want to be. So this year, right, the whole year and a half, the pandemic, of course, the virus, of course, the fires. You guys have dealt. I don't know if you have directly, but California has dealt with such fires, hurricanes, and floods, and tornadoes, and now ice and massive changes. Like there's nothing normal anymore. Like you can't count on it being the way it always was. But I call that the good news. And the reason that's the good news is because there's always breakdown before we break through. There's always breakdown in order to break through. Rumi has a poem called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some monetary awareness comes, an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide and a guest from beyond. A guide from beyond. What's that? What does that even mean? Beyond what? Right? In this time, I believe with every cell of my being that we are being pushed and cajoled and scrunched and pulled and everything, all those words tumbled, if you will, put in the fire, if you will, because our humanity, our human race is in a leap in consciousness. For the past 2, 4, 5, 10,000 years, we have lived with a basic foundation of being as separation. And when Jesus walked the planet some 2,000 years ago, he taught us a new way of being in the world. He taught us that God is within, that we all have access to the powers. He said, greater things than these shall you do. He taught us love. He taught us forgiveness. He taught us compassion. Think the Good Samaritan. He taught us kindness. He taught us gratitude. The teachings of Jesus prepared the way for exactly what we're standing in right now. But in the science of conscious evolution, the spiral of evolution, there comes a time where every species, from the beginning in the single cell organisms to the animals, the plants first, and then the animals, and then ultimately humankind, there comes a point in that consciousness that a species has to either die or quantum leap. And our human race is at that time. I don't say it like it's a scary thing, although those we could self-destruct. But I say it as an exciting thing. There is a new humanity. It's already here, and we don't necessarily see it out there. New humanity is an awakened world. David mentioned that my alternative ministry is called Divine Awakening. I've been working with this idea of awakening the essence of who we are, awakening to our Christ potential, awakening to new humanity for decades, to 20 years, 25 years. And it's happening. So let's look at it. What is it? So old humanity, which we could also say is current, the old way of being in the world is very Newtonian, if you know science. It's Newtonian, it's very logical, and there's a lot of victimization and oppression and divide. There's the sense of other. There is lack and limitation, and we are separate from. But as our science has grown and evolved into the quantum science, then we see things very different, like the whole linear time and space, the whole linear, even karmic, experience changes. Because when we access the quantum field, also known as the Christ presence within, the kingdom of heaven, the point of stillness, the spiritual heart. There's lots of names, the fifth dimension. There's lots of names for the experience of that. But when we enter into the quantum, we transcend time and space. When we transcend time and space, we transcend our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind is what keeps us in a state of separation. It keeps us in a state of victimization, keeps us in a state of living and reliving and experiencing and gathering more and more evidence that we aren't worthy, that there is other, whatever that means, that there is difference. And I'm not talking difference like unique. Unique is good. New humanity is filled with unique, but we're one and the same. We're one humanity. And when we make that leap, and when we touch that place again and again and again, then we begin to tip the scale from separation to oneness. We tip it in our own experience. And as more and more of us tip it, we tip it in a global experience. So what is new humanity? New humanity is juxtaposed with separation. It is oneness. In oneness, there is no other, for there is only one. In oneness, the foundation of our being is love, not fear. In new humanity, we experience love as an activational force, as the pure essence of being that we are. We experience kindness because there's no other. Kindness is an outpouring of the love. We experience compassion and innovation and beauty and creativity. And in new humanity, over time, in this evolutionary leap in consciousness, over time, all the systems of 2021 that don't work will crumble, will be dismantled. But not because we have this whole big revolution to dismantle all that, but because from oneness, there's this innovation and there's systems that support, truly support the greater good for the world, a world that works for all people. So when you can lean into that, you can begin to imagine it. Once you can begin to imagine it, you can align with it, which means go there. And then you begin to see evidence all over. It's all around you. It's already here. So we saw lots of evidence this past week. By the way, it's 74 degrees or something in Texas today, and all the snow is completely gone, even though we were still iced in yesterday. So welcome to Texas. I just lost my thought for that little random piece. When we land there, when we open to that place, we become different. We see things different. The evidence, that's what I was going to say, the evidence is all over the news. The power plants are frozen up, the pipes are full, all that evidence. But did you also see how humanity met humanity? There were some brilliant stories. People were opening their doors. People were saying, if you can get here, I've got water, I've got heat. There was a owner of a big major furniture store chain here in Austin who threw his doors open. He said, I've got couches, I've got recliners, I've got beds, I've got big screen TVs, I've got a cafe, I've got food. Come. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people made their way there. Our mass transportation, not that we have mass transportation, but any transportation that we have, stopped, and you could call and say, I have no power, I need a ride to a warm house, I need a ride to a warm place. And we had all kinds of places that were opened up to be warm houses. I don't know that houses was the word they used, but so you could go and you could get warm, and people were so generous, and people support people. That's part of new humanity. We've always had it, but yet our news focuses on the not. So when we begin to see different, we begin to be different. When we begin to be different, then we see different. It's actually the being that comes first. So my friend Solera is part of my global consciousness group, and we hang out in the quantum, and we hang out in new humanity, and we spend a lot of time really being, right? Being new humanity. And she wrote a fairy tale. This was actually a couple months back, but I thought it was really appropriate for today. It popped back up on my feed or something. Somehow it showed up. It goes like this. One day she woke up to see she was living in two worlds. In one world, there was beauty all around her. And the more she breathed in that beauty, the more beauty grew into that world. She became an enchantress of life, and the world sparkled and danced with the light all around her. In the other world, the people had no eyes for the beauty, and their reality became grayer by the day. So she called forth a comet from the great universal sky and asked it to bless the gray world with a plethora of sparkling stardust. And the rainbows came in great quantity to dance in the comet's rain. Look to the skies, peoples of the earth. The universe is enchanting you with its wonder, and the earth is ascending into breathtaking beauty right before your very eyes. Choose wonder. Breathe beauty. Let the gray be swallowed by orgasmic rainbows and sparkling stardust to rise into the glory of its magnificent becoming. Then shall we all become like gods, walking in a new land of connective delight, where beauty and wonder are the true measure of all that we create together. Can you feel it? Can you feel that wonder, that delight, that beauty, the sparkles? When I land there, when I experience that, when I step into that place, it is as if veils have been removed from my eyes. And the gray of the world becomes HD, vibrant colors, luminous colors, like colors we've not seen here on planet Earth before. I see evidence of it. I feel evidence of it. I align with evidence of it, and I become that new. Now, we have a huge advantage in Unity churches because we've been talking the talk for a very long time, 100 and almost 40 years, 130 years anyway. We've been talking the talk, we have the language. What most of us are missing is the integration of these truths. To take them out of our mind, we can spout them all day long and put them, place them deep into the center of our beings and become them and put these truths to practice, put them to the test, as it says in Malachi. It's talking about tithing. Put me to the test, and the windows of heaven shall burst forth. Put me to the test with any one of these spiritual principles, with love, with forgiveness, with kindness, with compassion, with knowing the kingdom of heaven, with knowing that with God all things are possible, with knowing that all things work together for a greater good. Always, every single time. That doesn't mean what happens to you is good, because life happens. Life on the planet happens. It's a crazy world right now, and there's things that happen. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge the world, and certainly don't judge another. But just go, wow, this happened, and I don't like it, and it stinks, and it hurts, and my heart's breaking open, or whatever it is that's going on with this thing that's happening. But ask yourself, okay, given this, how am I going to stand in it? How can I use this to discover and be a greater good in the world? How can I use this moment to tip the scales from separation and fear to oneness and love? How can I do it? And then once you be it, right? How can I be it? And then once you be it, even if for glimmers of seconds, it doesn't have to be like a massive awakening all at once, although that does happen. But it's that moment to moment to moment to moment choice. I have a quote from one of my books. Thank you, David, for looking up 9. I hadn't counted them in a while. That's crazy to me. It's from the book called Paradox of Awakening, Finding Peace in a World of Chaos. The quote is this: the awakening process is a shift from ego-based consciousness to heart-based consciousness, from ego-based reality to heart-based reality. Now, many of us have tried to go from our ego and our subconscious mind, dropping down to find our heart. And that's sometimes very difficult to do. But what you can do is you can pivot. You can drop into the core of your being using your meditation, your prayer practice. Land in that point of stillness, and then shoot right up from the heart into a higher vibration, into an elevated consciousness, into a new dimension of being called new humanity. Begin to look for the evidence that it's already here. And you will find it, be it. Richard Rohr is a fabulous author. He's written Universal Christ and Falling Upward, What to Do in the Second Half of Your Life, and some great, great, great works. He says this: he urged an awakening of the soul that incorporates Thomas Merton's ontological spirituality. What Rohr describes, what Rohr terms non-dual consciousness, because it does not focus on distinction and either or thinking as an antidote to the anger and the judgmentalism that we see in our United States and our world today. So when we focus on non-dual consciousness, every time we find ourselves in other or either or right, wrong, or high, low, or whatever that paradoxical feels like two different poles is, and we can lift in consciousness that we can hold both poles. Now, I'm not talking about condoning bad behavior. I'm talking about finding that place in our being, in our consciousness, where there is no other, where there is oneness, where we begin to experience oneness. Then so many of our paradigms will begin to shift and dismantle and change as we awaken to a greater truth, as we stand in that greater truth as we open to a new law of being. So, how do we be one of those ones that is tipping our scale into oneness? That's always the question, right? How do we do it? We practice. We take the spiritual truth principles as we know and we integrate them, we embody them, we become them. We stay very diligent and vigilant in what our mind is doing. And we know that love, love, love is the revolutionary power. Be it, become it, spread it. Nothing is more revolutionary than love, true love, a love from the place of oneness. It's a revolution of consciousness, a realization that things do not have to be the way they are. Waking up every day to love, staying awake to love as much as possible. And when you forget, just go, oh, I forgot, pivot again. Oh, I forgot, pivot again. Oh, I forgot, pivot again. And the bottom line to how we do it is a beautiful quote by Rumi. He says, listen with ears of tolerance, see through the eyes of compassion, and speak the language of love.
I release and I let go. I let the spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm